Hello, this is wmpyr. Today I want to talk about primarily open hand strikes. Okay, so one of the things is recently I've been working a lot on the punching bag, and when you work on the punching bag, of course I put on the wraps, and then I put on the glove, and then I do boxing, and then of course Muay Thai type training. But then of course sports is all great and everything. There's a lot of benefits to that, but my primary interest has always been self-defense. So afterwards, I take everything off. I go bare knuckle on the punching bag. I'm bam, 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 bam. And when I do that, not just fisto, I also do open hand and elbows and headbutts and knees too, but primarily focusing on the hand strikes, right? So after I do that, like months ago when I did that, I mean, I hurt my wrist. My hand itself was just in pain. My knuckles, they were the skin was ripped and it was bleeding. So I mean, there was damage to my hands, is what I'm trying to tell you guys. And now, if you could look at my hands, it's clean. I don't have any of that now, and it's not in pain. I'm fine. Yes, I went pretty hard last night, and I put in a lot of force, so I do feel it, but it's not, I don't feel any kind of like, oh man, this is like, I could barely move my hand. It's not like that, so I feel fine. What's the difference? The difference is just putting in the practice, and over time, I've learned, number one is to control the amount of force I'm putting in. So I'm not just going as freaking hard as I can. Actually, what it is you have to go very, very soft, and then start increasing the power and take it up to where you can handle. If you go any higher than this, you're going to start risking damage. So you have to constantly adjust that. And so once again, I start soft, boom, 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 start soft, and then start increasing the power, and then see how far you can go. The other thing is the little tiny details like angles, and how you're putting in your body mechanics and also into the force into the target, and just a little bit of that know-how is helping me avoid the injuries. So all that combined together. But I got to tell you, at the end of the day, you got to be very, very mindful when using the fist to not hurt your hand. And much, much safer is open hand strikes, okay? Open hand strikes is way, way safer. There's just no competition. So I start with a punch, it's bare knuckle, and then when I go to open hand strikes, I feel a big difference. I don't have to be like, okay, am I gonna hurt my hand? I don't have to be thinking about that, really. So big difference. And then the next thing about open hand strikes is, so a lot of self-defense instructors teach it, and one of the things they teach is the palm strike, okay? I don't teach the palm strike, and if I do teach it, I modify it, right? I have to completely modify it. So the first thing that you're gonna notice is that when you put your hand up in this position to do a palm strike, okay, just put your hand out right now and then do this. You feel the pressure in the wrist already. So it's almost like you've already, like, I don't know, if it's a submission, you've already put yourself in like a part where it's about to break, and then you're trying to attack with that thing. So my wrist is already compromised here. So if you're not very careful with this, I'm not saying it's a bad technique. I'm just saying that you got to know your limitations with it. So for me, what I like is, rather than going like this, I do this. You see, my hand now is more natural. So rather than going, okay, I'm going to palm strike this guy, and I lock my wrist into position, it's like this. So I turn the angle to where it's much more comfortable, and it's not necessarily, my wrist isn't locked all the way back. I don't need to do that. So from here, you can see I'm also hitting at an angle. So it's not that I'm trying to go here and then drive through with my strike. It's off at an angle. So it's almost like I'm glazing off, okay? So boom, boom, boom. So it's this kind of motion rather than through, like I'm putting a bullet through it. You know, it's more like a blade in a way that I'm glancing off of it. So if you do it that way, it's a lot safer, and it's now actually much similar or the same way as the way the sumo wrestlers do their palm strikes. Okay, and to me that's a big deal right there. The sumo wrestlers, this is one of their main techniques, and they practice it every day. And yes, it's not a full-blown strike, or they're not supposed to, although it's a very fine line, but they're not supposed to do it, and for those guys, they do it in this manner. So it makes a lot of sense to me, okay? So anyway, boom, boom. If you're going at this angle, it's much safer, and you're going to notice that as you do this, as you're glancing off, boom, like this, you're making a lot of contact with this area, which is the right area to make contact with. The strong bottom area right here, right where your hand and your wrist meet. So when you start doing that, you go, okay, well, why not just do this? And yes, so that is more the palm strike that I teach, where you're just going to do it like this. You are dropping the bottom part of your hand onto the target, whether it's sideways, whether it's going upwards. The angle, you can change it. You can change it all up, but now it's a completely different kind of strike. And when you're doing that, this also mixes well with the chop. Because it's kind of the same idea, but you're doing it now with the side of your hand, this part, not the finger area, not your pinky. Definitely want to avoid that. But this small area on your hand, you're using that, boom, for the chop. The palm strike was using this area right here, this bottom area of the bottom area of your hand. The chop is using the side area of your hand. The wedge is a technique that I am really big into teaching you guys. Combines that, plus it's not just limited to, because with a chop I feel very limited to here. Now with a wedge I could use all of this. So it goes from here, forearm and elbow. So once you start doing that, you could start off with a chop. You could start off with the palm heel strike, okay, and then you could put the wedge in, and now this is a total game changer. It connects all of that together, and at this point, since we're so close, it's okay for me to be using my fist. This is not the same. Using my fist like this is not the same as using my fist from out here and dropping a big old bomb where I can hurt my hand. So really want to emphasize the wedge and what goes around with it. So the chop, hopefully I explained it well for you guys, so you can link it with the wedge and the palm heel strike together. So the way this is normally taught, I don't do it that way. So changing it works very well with so doing it to a palm heel strike, chop, and then the wedge. So I hope that makes sense. Thank you for watching, and take care, folks.